What's up, guys? We're here in Kentucky. I'm all packed up, got my backpack, binos. We already dropped Mitch off. Luke's finna to head up to another spot up the road, and I'm fixing to dive off into this spot here and see if we can't cover some ground. It's been very eventful so far. I walked pretty much. I really didn't want to go walking through any bedding areas just because it's hunting time, but I accidentally got off into the middle of one. I was kind of expecting the bedding to be further in there, and the stuff was a lot thicker than what I anticipated. And I was 200 yards in there. I was just jumping deer, jumping deer, jumping deer, and they're blowing and blowing. I'm like, well, you know, I'm already here now. I might as well learn something since I already busted it out. But I found a white oak, a lone white oak in the middle of this bedding. It was just trails going right to it and acorns crushed all underneath it. So I'm really excited about that. That actually might be a sitting spot, maybe towards the end of the trip when all this stuff settles down. I'm still slipping down this creek. Just saw those deer as you seen. It's gonna be hard for me to get away from this creek. A hardwood flat over here and a big hardwood flat over here. This is a big creek bottom through here, right? And on both sides of this creek, big maples and like poplar trees, and I mean, bunch of junk really, you know, but thick, thick, thick. And just full of deer beds and deer trails. I'm gonna cover some ground. I wanna cover a lot of ground, give myself a lot of options so I don't just feel glued to this place. But it's hard to leave when you're seeing deer and you're seeing food. All right, Luke, let me see that athleticism. I'd run and jump. Pretty graceful. Alright, about to go to bed. I'm trying to get up around 3:30. I'm not gonna get in the stand until about 5, but I'm trying to get in there early because pretty close to a bedding area. But I'm gonna go hunt some acorns. I found some acorns in the middle of a big marsh, so hopefully I can catch something coming or going to those acorns. I think it's gonna be a good sit. We'll see. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all in the morning. I don't know how well y'all can see me, but here it is. It's opening day. Just got up. Rolled over, ready to hit the woods, so I'm about to hop out. Sounds good. Gonna hit the woods. Got the gear on. We're loaded down. Feels great to have all the mobile packs packed and ready to rumble. What you think, Luke? You ready?
Yeah, buddy.
Excited.
Opening day.
Opening day. We already had a truck come in and park about 100 yards up the road from us, but it's okay. We're gonna be heading in a different direction anyway, so no problem. How about a knuckle bump, Mitch?
Ain't even worried about it.
Right on. Alright guys, heading back in for this afternoon hunt. Had a crazy afternoon, or try to do some scouting kind of middle of the day. Found a big buck, probably nice 130 inch buck at least, dead in the middle of a big old soybean field, probably from EHD or CWD, but you hate to find that. So I'm heading back to a spot that I found on the first day scouting. I found a scrape in early season. It's a good sign. So we just had a good light drizzle come through, and I'm thinking after this rain, somewhere around that scrape might be a good place to be. Also found some good acorns in there, so hoping that maybe we'll have some deer filter through, and maybe we'll have a buck come up and try to hit that scrape. What's up guys? I'm gonna make this kind of quick because it's prime time. It took me forever to get set up. I had just an afternoon for the books, man. Forgot my release, set up in a tree, and once I got set up, totally hated it. I'm the kind of person too, I'm not gonna sit somewhere if I don't like it. I'm a mile from the road where I got dropped off right now, and I found, you can hear it, I found a white oak that is dropping acorns. I mean, raining them, and I haven't found this. I haven't found a tree dropping like this anywhere out here. So I jumped a nice buck like 300 yards that way, and my wind at the time was going in that direction. But now it's hitting me in the face this way and dropping down into this bottom behind me. I was hoping that maybe the buck would try to go around and win me, because this is a big knob. I jumped him way down in that bottom. I was hoping maybe he would try to go way away from, because he wasn't bumped hard, he just trotted off real gingerly. He was heading this direction, so I found this big white oak dropping. I was like, man, I'm not terribly far from where I jumped that buck. I need to sit on this. Got an hour till dark, so maybe something will happen, we'll see.
Sound stripe. Sound stripe.
About to get on out of here. It's going to do it for this afternoon. There's a storm coming in, and I got about 30 minutes left of daylight. Not a total waste of an afternoon. I mean, I didn't really get to hunt much. I only sat for like 20 minutes, which that's nothing, but I walked and walked and walked and wasn't finding anything, and I felt really upset. I was like, man, what a waste. I only got, a couple hunts. I can't be wasting time. But I found what I was looking for. Found some big white oaks dropping. Walked a long ways and not seen an acorn on the ground, so I think that's going to be huge. On top of that, I seen a nice buck within 300 yards of where I found those acorns. Probably even 200. It ain't very far. So maybe it'll rain tonight, wash all this scent out of here, and I'll start fresh tomorrow right here from this tree.
That was pretty tasty. How you like that coffee, Luke? All right, heading back out for the morning hunt. It's Sunday. We got this morning, this afternoon, and one more hunt tomorrow left. Raining, it's been raining pretty heavily all through the night, and it just stopped here. It's probably like 6 o'clock. So we're gonna head on out there, sneak in nice and quiet, try to get to our setups. Pretty excited. I'm gonna head back to that ridge that I was on last night and found those big acorns dropping. I seen a buck yesterday walking. Mitch seen a buck, and Luke seen a buck from the stand. So it should be a good morning.
Alright boys, we made it in here this morning. Didn't bump hardly any deer coming in, which is good. There's been a lot of acorns eaten that were under my tree. When I left yesterday, the acorns were heavy under the tree because it was raining and the wind was blowing, and it blew a bunch of acorns on the ground. I'm feeling pretty good about it. despite having some pretty weather and a nice oak tree raining some big old green acorns. I haven't had any action. Haven't seen a single deer. I saw some turkeys in the distance, but I couldn't even get them on film. They were through the woods, and I just caught them barely slipping through a ridge. About 10:15 now. I seen them. It looks like there's another cloud storm about to come in on the radar, so I might just crawl down. You might be able to hear thunder in the background, but Mitch is sitting about half a mile through the woods that way on a cornfield, and I'm just hoping that maybe as I'm walking down I push some does or something to him, maybe even a buck, let him shoot something. That'd be awesome. Jeez. Now I got a long way to go. What you think about that rain? What's up, guys? I just got settled in here. It's my last afternoon here in Kentucky. It's been a great hunt. Seen a lot of deer, seen a lot of nice deer walking around and driving around. Haven't seen a lot of good bucks from the stand, or really haven't seen anything from the stand. But we've had rain, and just it hasn't been the best weather, but it's been a good time. This afternoon I'm set up on a big bean field. Hope is that some does will filter out into this field and I can smack one. I'm trying to get some meat in the freezer. I walked this whole edge and I found some fresh tracks cutting into this field right here, and the beans are browsed down pretty good over here. I think it's going to get shaded on this side of the field first, so I think them deer are going to come out and work down this edge, and I'll get a shot at one. Well, that's frustrating. I was sitting here hearing something walking in the woods behind me, and I thought at the same time as I'm hearing something walking behind me, I hear something walking down the edge of the field in front of me, but it sounded like a human tromping, like just walking too fast, too loud. And then I started hearing him talking on the phone. So I start whistling, and I guess he didn't hear me. And he walks in the woods right here where I'm at, and I start hollering. I said, "Hey," and he turned and walks off. It just sucks. I mean, it's public land, you're gonna have it, but this field's right off the side of the road, and there's only one parking spot on this road, and my truck's there. It's like, come on, man. I guess he could have thought I could have been in the woods. Oh well, on top of that, as soon as he got right here close to me, a deer behind me that I heard went to blowing and running. It was in the beans. Maybe they'll come back, I don't know.
Last evening, Trey's on foot, trying to do a stalk. We saw a few deer in the field. Got rained out of the stand. Thought it was going to rain all night, so we packed it up. Found a few deer in a field from the road. I was going to try to put the stalk on one and see what we can do.
We had spotted a buck. We were riding on the road and we had spotted a buck that was not very impressive, like maybe 100 inches at the very most. Either way, I would be just as tickled with that as anything, because I've never killed a velvet deer. So I told them, I was like, let's pull over. You know, I'm gonna jump out and strike out across the field. Luke was behind the camera, and Mitch, he was wore out. He was like, man, I'm just gonna hang put here. So it was all right, everything was good. When I was going across the field, we had misread it was a mistake that I had made. We should have checked the Onyx and seen what way that field was when we were coming down the road. I get into this back field and I had the GoPro on my bow, and I was gonna capture everything on my GoPro, and I hit it and I had it red light blinking and I had it recording. Somewhere along the lines of me crawling, I don't know if it got wet in that grass or something happened to it. I still haven't got it to turn back on yet, but my GoPro shut off, and I was like, dang, I hope they can see me, I hope they can see me. Well, as I was sliding across the field, I spotted a little fawn. She was like 10-15 yards in front of me. Well, I laid really flat to the ground to that fawn. At this point in time, that 100-inch buck that I was after was probably like 300 yards across this field, and it's tall grass. So my plan was to cut across the field because it wasn't very wide, it was just long, and I was going to walk down the tree line or crawl down the tree line to the corner of where he was, and then I was going to pop around the corner and maybe get a shot because I'd guessed him to be about 30 yards from this corner. He was back on the edge of the field and on the buffer strip, and the wind was perfect. It was hitting me in the face, blowing right down the tree line, coming from the direction he was coming from and going to straight to me, hitting me in the face. So I'm coming down the field, but I spotted that fawn, and as I spot the fawn, I was like, well, I know there's a doe right here somewhere with her. So I kind of crouched up on my knees and I'm glancing around, and I spot the doe. She's like 50 yards from me, and she's in front of me on my way to that buck. But I'm like, you know what, at this point I wanted to kill a deer. I'm like, I'd be satisfied if I stalked up and shot that doe right now. I crawl towards that doe and I hear another deer, so I just kind of real slowly raise up, and I stick my head out the top of the grass, and I just see velvet rack 30 yards right there. And I'm like, oh my god, and I just lay back down, and I'm like, let me give him a second. I wasn't sure if his horns weren't facing me, they were turning this way, so I was like, I didn't think he had saw me, but I just wanted to make sure that when I popped up I didn't make too much movement and he catch a glimpse of something. So I stayed low, I clipped my bow, and I got my knees completely up under me, so that way I could crouch up on my knee and draw like this if he stands up. But I told myself in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna wait for this deer to stand up on his own. I wasn't gonna try to stand up and draw and then him just bail out of there. So I was just trying to be patient, stay low, and I'm thinking about this in my head. I'm like, he doesn't know you're here, like, stay calm, wind's perfect, like this is absolutely ideal, perfect situation that you've just fell into. And now I'm sitting there looking at the buck, and he stands up and he begins to just slow walk, like parallel with me, kind of quartering away. So he was at 30, so now he's probably 32, 33, and I'm turning and I draw the bow. He's probably 34, 35, and I get up on my knees, and he has no idea. He's got his head down, just kind of quartering away. And when I was on my knees, I could have made a shot, but there was just a little bit of light grass, and I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. So I stood up, and when I stood up, he still didn't see me. He was just walking, and I didn't want to take a chance to try to stop him. And he look at me and scramble, so I was just keeping it on him, keeping it on him, keeping it on him. Like, as soon as he stops, I'm shooting him. And sure enough, about 38 yards, probably 38, 40, it was a close 40, he just kind of stops, and he went to glance over, but I had been holding the pins on him the whole time. So as soon as he stopped, I was settling, and when he was going to glance is when I shot. And off the rip, from the time that I released, the arrow looked like it bucked mid-flight. I don't know if it hit grass, I don't know if I got some mud on the tip of my broadhead and it made the weight different, or I don't, maybe I've completely just legitimately missed. That's an option too, but the arrow flight didn't look right. Either way, I missed this buck. He goes trotting down the field. He has no idea what happened. Like, took a couple gallops, and then he just stops and just goes back to walking nice and calm. He goes into the woods. But that was pretty much the conclusion on that. It was a super heartbreaker. Buck, 130+ inch buck on the ground, velvet. It's what you dream of, but is what it is. That's hunting. It's going to happen. It's going to happen a bunch of times more. If you, especially trying to get aggressive and trying to spot and stalk, you're gonna mess up a lot before you start doing good, I imagine. Just got to learn from the mistakes.